Hello and welcome to Oasis of Grace, where we share the Word of God and we encourage each other in the Lord. Today, we will have a look at what I call the 3-step tactics that narcissists use against their victims or against children of God. So these are basically tactics or strategies that they devise in order to attack a person mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, in order to break down their victim and then comfortably impose their abuse, manipulation, and control. So all of these tactics are based on one's character. So let us unpack how they play out. The first tactic that they use is they attack your character based on what you are not. Okay, that's the first one. It's based on what you're not. If you are not fearful, then the narcissist knows that it's highly unlikely to make you fear something. They will impose fear on you. They will try to get you fearful, and when they finally failed on imposing things that you are not, or on making you subject to situations that are not gonna bring out results because you just aren't like that. For example, they'll try to make you fearful, but you aren't. They'll try to make you jealous, but you aren't a jealous person. They'll try to make you angry, but you just aren't. So let me show you what the devil does in order to enforce the opposite, but in a subtle and cunning way. So instead of making you fearful because they know and they've tried and seen that it doesn't work, they will make you anxious. So if it's a family dynamic, they will just, be suggestive of things that should make you anxious. They will be suggestive of things that you should worry about. When you are just carefree, you're like a child. You're absolutely cheerful in your fruits of the Spirit, but they will come along and impose anxiety and worry. If you are not a jealous person, they will try to make you an offensive person. Not in the sense that you inflict offense, but in the sense that you take on offense very easily. So let's say, for example, you are having a disagreement. They will suggest that, you're just so easily offended. Why? It is a subtle attack on your psyche. It is a subtle attack on your emotions so that they can infiltrate with their confusion and make you second guess yourself and make you ultimately lose your true essence. The third one is if you're someone that's just naturally hardly ever angry, well, for that they will make you impatient and they will always cause you to be irritated. This again may be through their behavior or their impositions whereby they want to invoke it on you. Remember that narcissists are masters of smearing. To smear is to, I think of it like as spreading jam on a piece of bread. So that's what they do best. And so if they cannot get you to be angry, since it's outside of your character, they will make you impatient. If you aren't envious, they will try and impose that you are such a proudful person. Let me just give a typical example that I encountered throughout my life growing up. Because I was never a jealous person or an envious person, I would always wonder, why do people impose this thing of me being proud when I knew that I was not proud? But the Lord has answered me. The Lord made me understand as I was preparing this video that It is all impositions. It is all a smear, because the devil wants us to take on characteristics, behaviors, emotions, and feelings that do not belong to us. Have you ever wondered, like, if you are just being a child of God, minding your business, and people say that, oh, you think you're better than everyone, and all of those things, and you are left confused that, well, why is that? Because I'm just being myself. Well, I'm here to tell you that, first of all, you're not crazy, and secondly, it was just the devil and the narcissistic spirit of control and abuse trying to get you to come in agreement with the smear that they wanted to put on you. And then the next one is conniving. If you know yourself that you aren't conniving, then comes the people pleasing. Narcissists will make you a people pleaser. Well, why is it? They influence you to become pathologically helpful. And the narcissist twists this. Your helpfulness would become intrusive, something smothering, and ultimately self-serving, which would then irritate those around you and making them feel manipulated, even though those were not your initial intentions. And additionally, it is definitely outside of your character. You see how conniving the devil is? It is written that the devil is very deceitful. He is very cunning in all his ways. And then the last one I would like us to have a look at, which is based on something that you just naturally are not. It's hateful. Most of God's children are just naturally not hateful. And I'm tempted to say, like every person, like every human being, when we are created, God created us pure. If you look at children, children are pure, but they are taught certain behaviors. So when you are a child of God and you know yourself not to be a hateful person, well, the narcissist, instead of directly causing you to be hateful, or if they fail to make you to be hateful, they will influence you to become deeply suspicious and paranoid. It wouldn't be a full-blown psychosis, but a constant nagging feeling that others are out to get you. This suspicion would then lead you to misinterpret natural actions as hostile, creating genuine enemies and attracting the attention of truly hateful individuals. You see? Do you see how the script is flipped? So, out of your paranoia and the suspicion that you have, you could also find yourself just lashing out preemptively, which further fuels the negative cycle and fulfilling the initial goal that the narcissist had, which is to make you look hateful. So that is the first tactic we just covered, which is based on what you are not. Now, let's have a look at the second tactic. This one is based on what you are. Do you see just how, what's the term? The enemy attacks God's children from every angle. If he cannot get you based on what you are not, he'll come at you based on what you are and try to attack that. Okay, let's unpack it and see what I'm talking about. So these are the characteristics that children of God have, such as kindness, love, being supportive, being sincere, being innocent, genuine, pure, etc. I'm just gonna pick maybe a little over 5 to help you understand how narcissists attack your character in a subtle way, and they want to cause you to act in a way that is contrary to your character. Okay, so let's get into the first trait, which is kindness. So if you know yourself to be a very kind person naturally, and you would instinctively not be unkind, then the narcissistic person is going to influence you to become excessively accommodating and unable to set boundaries. This example of being excessively accommodating or people-pleasing is forged in childhood, within the family dynamic, when the leadership is narcissistic. It starts off as, twisting virtues and blackmailing children into being excessively accommodating and unable to set boundaries, or actually being forbidden to have boundaries. And then it the way into teenagehood, adulthood, and finally in that leadership role of being a parent, a church leader, a company leader, whereby that influence of being excessively accommodative becomes one's detriment. So it wouldn't be intentional unkindness, but a gradual erosion of your ability to prioritize your own needs, which is wrong. And you'll find that most people that are under narcissistic attack, they overexert themselves, leading to resentment and burnout. This then manifests as passive aggression, outbursts, which, though they are not intentionally unkind, they are perceived by others as unkind. And it also leaves the victim open to exploitation by genuinely unkind people. So not only is your character being under attack, but you are being used to your detriment. As if that's not enough, everything that you are going through gives way to genuinely abusive, narcissistic people to exploit you. And this is the primary reason why a lot of narcissistic abuse victims wind up with narcissistic partners. And you just ask yourself, why would you be with an abusive partner when your father was abusive? Why do we attract these abusive situations when we actually grew up in those abusive situations? Well, here is the answer. It's because we have been so broken down and attacked in our emotional and mental psyche that it just makes us open to exploitation, further exploitation. So let's have a look at the second one. So these again are based on your character, based on who you are. So if you are a loving person, instead of being turned into a hateful person, the narcissist is going to influence you to become possessive and clingy. Again, it won't be a conscious desire to control, but a subtle distortion of your love. Your affection is often going to be suffocating and creating distance in relationships. Your partners may feel trapped or smothered, which will lead to arguments and resentments. This possessiveness, although it stems from a place of love, it drives loved ones away and inadvertently causes you to operate in the spirit of rejection and ultimately outside of love, which is your true character. Up next, we have supportive. So let's say you are a supportive person naturally. Well, The narcissist is either going to try to make you unsupportive or set you up for failure in instances where you have to showcase your support. If that fails, well, they are going to influence you to be overbearing or interfering. So your desire to help won't diminish, but it will be distorted. You'll find yourself constantly offering unsolicited advice or try to fix other people's problems, even when your help is not wanted. This then will lead to resentment and pushback, and it's going to make you feel unappreciated, undermined of your genuine desire to support, because that is who you are. You are a supportive person, but this is going to lead to a pushback that will leave you feeling undermined and underappreciated. Okay, the next one I've listed here is sincere. So the ones I'm addressing right now are just the mainstream ones that are common among like billions of people on this planet, so that you can now understand and gain that validation and peace that you needed with your emotional experience as a narcissistic abuse survivor, or as someone that's been exposed to narcissistic leaders, parents, work environments, etc. Okay, so let's look at being sincere. Say now you are a sincere person. Instead of being made to be insincere, because it's highly unlikely, then you will be influenced to become naive or gullible. I love this one. I love this one. Your sincerity won't vanish, but it will become a vulnerability, a tool for your demise. You will be easily misled or manipulated by others, making you look foolish or untrustworthy. You know, this one is funny because a lot of people can relate to this, especially when it comes to relationships. Narcissistic abuse victims are typically so sincere, but they are always misunderstood. Well, I have come to tell you that it's not just a mere misunderstanding. It is a well-calculated tactic that the narcissistic spirit within narcissistic people is using to fight your sincerity, to fight your virtue, and to ultimately fragment you so much that you become open to exploitation. So you wouldn't intentionally be deceptive, but then the result of your own trusting nature. Okay, so the untrustworthy factor, it's not an intentional deception, right? Or the gullibility factor, it's not an intentional negative trait on your side, but it is a result of your trusting nature, which is now being exploited and used against you. I find a lot of people saying that they are told that, well, why did you do this? It means you do it for everyone. Innocence is a characteristic that we have from childhood, and it is the one that gets tainted from the offset. So let's see the strategy that narcissists use to attack a child's innocence, even a teenager's or a young adult's or an adult's innocence, by not causing them to be naughty, but through a twisted and cunning way of causing them to have their innocence exploited and break down that pure innocence. So the first strategy within innocence is blind faith. The narcissist twists the innocent person's inherent faith in good into blind faith or unchecked idealism. What does this mean? Well, it causes one to become so convinced of their own righteous path that they ignore warning signs or refuse to see the flaws in others. Because innocent people believe, everyone is kind, everyone is like them, and that is a big mistake. So this leads to poor judgments. This leads to defending harmful individuals or causes, or even become radicalized by manipulative figures who exploit their innocent idealism. So in this case, then, innocence becomes a form of blindness. Another way to influence a person who is innocent, which is often used by narcissists, is that they require over-reliance on authority. Remember, God is the one that is the supreme authority over all our lives, but narcissists are obsessed with having human beings be subject under their control and to be reliant on their control. In the case of a child, of course, a child relies on their parents. They need food, they need shelter. Not only children, as a matter of fact, even teenagers, adults. This reliance on authority, it is something that narcissists use to exploit the victim by making them over-reliant, even though those authority figures are corrupt or misguided. We see this a lot with adults, particularly within church organizations, the work environment, whereby people they need their income, and also within family dynamics, whereby in the hierarchy, if you dare challenge the corrupt or misguided parent, you may risk being homeless. You may be chased out. You will be assassinated in front of all your relatives, your church circle, your social circle. So then what does this do? It causes the narcissistic victim to blindly follow orders and to adhere to rules without questioning them, even if the actions lead to unintended harm. In this way, innocence and trust become a tool for others to exploit. And then one more that gets to be used in terms of attacking one's innocence, it is the fear of tarnishing purity. So narcissists use this to impose judgment. It imposes judgment by causing one to be isolated, to become hypercritical, and thus placing them directly in judgment of others, which is not really an innocent thing to do. It is contrary to innocence, to purity, to virtue, for one to be judgmental. And then again, lastly, purity. So if you are someone who is naturally pure in heart and just you are a pure soul, well, narcissists are going to try and make you self-righteous. You may not even be self-righteous, but they will say you already are self-righteous. They will smear you as a self-righteous person and a judgmental person, as someone who looks down on others, when you know that you are not like that. So let's move on to the third tactic that I mentioned earlier. The third one, I call it Not My Problem. It's the song by Layla that is titled Not My Problem. So that is the third tactic, because in my mind, I just laugh when I think about this tactic. So this one is when the narcissist is going to try and make their problems yours. Okay? This is their most desperate attempt, most desperate strategy to try and smear you. When the first tactic fails or the second tactic fails, then ultimately they are going to come at you directly by imposing on you, on your character, traits that actually belong to them. Let me give you a typical example of this. So my daughter was being bullied at school because she is an age younger than all of her classmates. And during life orientation lesson, the boys in the class were referring to her as being the shortest. In essence, they were just imposing certain things on her. And this is when it dawned on me that this is exactly what happens to us. This is exactly what happens when narcissists fail on every attempt. Then they try to smear you with their feelings. They try to make their problems your problems. Let's take the example I've given you of bullying. So what happens is she has nothing to be ashamed of, to be uncomfortable about, or be in distress or shame about. She's in the grade she is in at school. She is younger than all of her classmates, which is an achievement. It's a great thing. It's a good sign on her end. So she has just nothing to be sad about. But guess what? Just like narcissists, they will try to make their problem your problem. So I showed her this, that look, they're the ones that are ashamed, embarrassed. Your mere presence is embarrassing to them because they are a year, 2 years older than you in this specific grade. They're the ones that are feeling uncomfortable or maybe threatened or ashamed or sad or intimidated, but it's too much of a burden to carry, and they are failing on their self-regulation, so instead they're imposing their feelings on you. It is just the most it was the funniest thing ever for us to realize and to laugh about this, to see just how people give you their problems. Growing up, one of my teachers used to say, do not let the circus master hand you the monkey that is running around and jumping everywhere in the circus. It's their monkey, not yours. So this is exactly what we are dealing with here. This is when the narcissist has failed on every attempt to come at you based on what you aren't, come at you based on what you are, to impose all of these things that you are not, to, smear you. When everything has failed, they will finally make their problem your problem. Remember, the whole thing about narcissists is they are people who refuse to self-regulate. They cannot stand themselves. They cannot sit down, do an inventory check, see how they can fix and amend things, take responsibility. They're operating on a different dimension mentally and spiritually. So when everything fails, they then smear you with their character traits, with the very things that they do not want to address. Let's say, for example, in the child and parent dynamic, the narcissistic parent is gonna say, well, you are just being an idiot. You are just a stupid boy. You are just being, a silly girl for this and that, or for whatever. They will say you are resentful, you are unforgiving, you are hateful, when in essence, they are the ones that are like that. They are the ones that are struggling with those kind of things. But because all of their attempts to control, manipulate you, oppress you mentally and emotionally, all of their attempts have failed, then they will finally come around and smear you with the very things that they are. I'm sure you can give so many more examples than I have given, But that was just the insight I had for today, to make us aware and to validate some of the experiences we may have had in our lives, maybe through childhood, in our church dynamics, in the work environment, because our essence and core as human beings is to have human relations. So when those human relations are faulty, when something is wrong, and when they are unbearable, it causes us to stop everything and look at what's going on and really have an honest chat about what is it that's really going on. And so I trust that today's video has been a blessing to you, and I will see you on the next one. Please jump in the comments section, let me know your experiences, what you think, and also give examples from your own life or observations. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.